Hi, and welcome back to our podcast, Best Friends and Their Books. I'm Tracy with my co-host and best friend.
Shelby.
We're so excited to talk to you today about all things bookish, including our book of the month, which is The Lion Women of Tehran. So let's get started.
All right. First we're going to start by going over some of the books we've read recently. What have you read, Tracy?
I have only read one other book in the month of September, which is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. Wasn't great. Not really pleased with my reading selection this month, especially not reading a lot. And then the one book that I read wasn't great. So
Yeah. I am kind of in the same boat as you. I don't even know if I want to really call it a slump. I'm just like kind of taking it slow with reading right now. So the only book that I read was our book of the month. Um, I feel like I've just been like, I don't know, I'm kind of like a hobby girl. And right now I've been focusing on like sewing is like my new hobby, and reading has taken a back seat, and trying to enjoy like the last little bit of like summer and early fall. I just like have put reading on the back burner.
yeah.
Um, and it took me forever to read this book. It took like 4 weeks to finish the book, unfortunately. But I think you'd be surprised by my rating. Like it makes it sound like that I didn't like it, and that's like not the case. It just was
There's
it
a
was
lot.
it was it was hard to get not really hard to get into, but the first 50% very slow
Yeah.
to me at least.
I can,
I was like reading like maybe 5% on like the Kindle, like, you know how it has like on the bottom percent read. I read like 5% a day, and then I would wait like another day or two, and then I'd read like 2 or 3%. Like it was like a
yeah.
snail's pace of reading.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like since I am such a mood reader, it wasn't necessarily like I like think yeah, I think it'd be surprised my rating, but I think that it just wasn't my mood in this last month.
Yeah, and when we chose it in August, I was like, that sounds like really good. Like I haven't read like a historical fiction or just something of like that nature in so long.
Yeah.
I was really excited. And then like it kept getting closer and closer to when I knew I was supposed to start our book. And I was like, I don't know if I'm into this like choice anymore, but I have to read it. Like, we already like decided. And then it started out so slow, and I was like, oh no. But like I knew it wasn't a bad book. Like when I was reading it, like there was nothing in it that I was like, this is bad. Like,
It's
you know,
so well written.
yeah.
It wasn't that at all. Yeah. But I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, I was just kind of like a slower time.
No, I
Um,
feel like the past couple of months has been like TV gold between Love Island
mhm.
and then now the um,
Secret
Secret
Lives of Mormon
Lives.
Wives.
A mouthful. They should. I mean, so is our name. So I guess I can't talk, but I feel like yeah, it's just been like good TV recently.
Yeah, that's
The
true too.
Bachelorette. Don't think you watched the season, but like I watched The Bachelorette. Wasn't great.
I kind of kept up online, but I didn't tune into it.
Yeah, I couldn't look away, but it was like I always. It hasn't been great in a while, but I still continue to watch. I don't know what.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, have you added anything to like your TBR recently? Anything that you're anticipating to read?
I started the Magnolia Park series, and then
Oh
I've
yeah.
kind of been reading things in between, but I think I really want to just commit to finishing it. Um,
Okay, yeah.
Started the third book, which is like the second for Magnolia, and a few days ago, and I'm like really, really invested in it this time. It started off with a bang. It's a really long book, that's why I've been putting it off, but I'm pretty committed to finishing now.
Yeah. I did start a book earlier in August, but like af it was after we had done our last episode, but like kind of earlier in August, when we were driving down to Virginia Beach. But I only read, oh, I didn't even update on my Goodreads. But I only read like 20% of it. It was The Drowning Woman by Robin Harding. It's
Oh,
the book cover with like it's like the back of the woman's head, and she's like in the water. It's kind of like yellowy and greenish.
I was gonna
It was
say, like,
good, but I only got 20% in. Like I don't know why. I don't know what I don't know. I'm just like
yeah,
not in the reading mood recently, and I'm not trying to force it.
yeah. I was gonna say because you used to be like so committed to Goodreads only having one book at a time, and you have for the past like year have like tons that you like are not committing to do not finish them. Like you're not moving them anywhere. They're just still under your current read. So I was just wondering the status there. Like what's the game plan?
Let me see. Okay. I think they're just gonna stay.
Forever.
Yeah. Yeah, we have remarkably bright creatures
Oh
at
no, I hate
22,
it.
22%.
Oh, it's so sad.
I don't think I'm picking that one up. I don't know. I
Nope.
read like almost 50% of The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and I could not tell you what happens. I just like can't press that like I didn't finish it. I don't know. I don't have a do not finish shelf, and I'm sure it's very easy to make one. I'm just making excuses.
I have a do not finish shelf on mine. I don't think I put many of them there, but I only have 3 there.
I just feel like bad.
The
Like,
Cold, oh, The
yeah.
Club, yeah, oh God. And then the Alicia Keys documentary, or what's it called? Biography. Then I try to get into Harry Potter fan fiction, but I can't be doing that because I'm too much of a fan to get into fan fiction, if that makes sense.
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not like in that sphere, so I don't really know what the fan fiction is about.
It's just bad. It's like, I mean, you know Hermione and Malfoy, right? Like
Mhm.
Malfoy's the bad guy and Hermione is
Yeah.
like, well, in like this book, like it's kind of like the house, oh, what's it called? The red outfits. What is that? Housemaid's Tale. Yeah, the Housemaid Tale. Like the show where like they all wear
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like parallel to
Handmaids.
Handmaid's Tale. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's like Malfoy and Hermione, and Malfoy's like the guy, and then Hermione's like the handmaid. And it's so weird to me because it's like it's combining those two worlds, which is just weird. And then it's like, no, Hermione does not like Malfoy, and she ends up like falling in love with him. And there's so much fan fiction that's like Hermione and Malfoy as a couple, and I'm just not down because she belongs with Ron, and I will stand by that. Like I'm not down to veer off the path. Like Harry Potter,
Hmm.
Harry Potter is, you know.
Yeah.
So that's that. That's my piece. But I've seen it go really big on Bookstagram and Book Talk, but I cannot get down with fan fiction. Nope. So
That's
that's my rant. I know you don't understand, but I think I've gotten my husband to read. He used to not read like any books ever. And then so the past like couple years I've got little by little and he's been picking up books now that I haven't put on the Kindle for him to read. Like usually I put it on the Kindle, I'm like, read this. And
yeah.
like Akatar, but now he's like picking things up himself. And
So
so
he's got the reading bug.
yes, he
So-
has the reading bug. He takes the Kindle with him everywhere. He literally kicked me out of my reading chair this morning that I was trying to read in so he could read. But I think I'm gonna try to get him to read Harry Potter next. Because he's watched
Oh,
he's never read Harry Potter and he's like, I watched the movies, like I don't need to read the books, but
yeah.
so we'll see.
Does
I
he
might
like the movies?
yeah.
Maybe he'll probably like it then. The books are better than the movies, is what they say.
Yeah, and there's like so much more detail, so I feel like it's just different. Like you would still I think so. But I read Harry
Yeah.
Potter the series every few years and think that that's a cool thing to do. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I wanted to
I
get
hope you can get him to read it because I don't think you'll get me to read
Oh.
it.
I wanted to do like a series on like TikTok or Instagram, like after he reads books, like getting his opinions and stuff, because he read Akatar. He
Yeah.
was it. He
Oh
won't
my
get in front
gosh.
of the camera. You want to try to take pictures of him, let's post on Bookstagram, like, oh, he kicked me out of my chair. He like tries to hide his face and stuff. Like he is like
Aw.
very wants to be mysterious. He's not on social media, so he's like just that's not his like personality at all.
Yeah. Josh doesn't like having his picture taken or anything like that either. Doesn't like being in any videos.
All right, let's jump into our book of the month, which is The Lion Women of Tehran by Marjan Kamali. In 1950s Tehran, 7-year-old Ellie lives in grand comfort until the untimely death of her father, forcing her and her mother to move to a tiny home downtown. Lonely and bearing the brunt of her mother's endless grievances, Ellie dreams of having a friend to alleviate her isolation. Luckily, on the first day of school, she meets Homa, a kind, passionate girl with a brave and irrepressible spirit. Together, the two girls play games, learn to cook in the stone kitchen of Homa's warm home, wandering through the colorful stalls of the Grand Bazaar, and share their ambitions of becoming lion women. But their happiness is disrupted when Ellie and her mother are afforded the opportunity to return to their previous barogious life. Is that a word? Okay. As Ellie enjoys her popularity at the best girls' high school in Iran, her memories of Homa begin to fade. Years later, however, Homa's sudden reappearance in Ellie's privileged world alters the course of both of their lives. Together, the two young women come of age and pursue their own goals for meaningful futures. But as the political turmoil in Iran builds to breaking point, one earth-shattering betrayal will have enormous consequences. I hate
Powerful book.
I hate how and this is like a me thing and like it's my problem, but I hate when words are cut off at the end of the sentence and like it's a hyphen and it continues. Like even when I'm reading, that's so distracting to me because I'm like
Yeah.
I have a hard time bringing it around.
Yeah, I get that.
Silly, but
It looks like choppy.
yeah, that's how that synopsis was. I was like, what word is this?
All right, let's hop into our questions. How would you describe the city of Tehran during Ellie and Homa's childhoods? What feelings does it invoke? How was Tehran different for both girls before they lived in the same neighborhood?
Think there's like a lot of emotions in this because I felt, like this was in the 1950s. And so
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of it back then, but then my mind of Iran now is not much different. So I was like, wow, this has been such a long time, right? This is
Yeah.
70 some years, and this country like hasn't gotten better, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I feel like in their childhood, like it was like a lot different though than like the current day that they were, or like I think when it was like the 70s or 80s in the book, like when they were in the 50s, like, and they were like outside playing hopscotch and going to school and like stuff like that. I feel like it was kind of different then. It like got progressively like worse and worse.
Yeah. I guess
But
a lot of it like they just didn't know then.
true.
Because they
True.
talk about how Homa's dad was like against it and he was a communist and there was like still like tension. I just felt like we
Mhm.
maybe we didn't know because they were little kids, but that is a good point. I
True.
don't actually know how the 1950s Iran is, but I was just making assumptions.
Yeah, I had no like I couldn't have even guessed, to be honest. Like if you asked me what 1950s Iran was like, I would be like, no idea. The same as today. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I'd never thought of that before. But I feel like they were both like in their childhood, they were both like so immersed in their culture. And like I really liked, while
Mhm.
I did say the beginning of the book was very slow,
Yeah.
it seemed like they were both very like proud of their culture. And like I learned like about a lot of like the foods and like, kind of like their customs and stuff. Like it's just very different from how it is like in America. Like they would like talk about doing like the back and forthness of like accepting like a gift or like a food from someone and like, no, no, no. And then the person has to offer it to you again, like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, I thought learning about that kind of stuff was pretty interesting.
Yeah. I did like that. I love like the feeling that Homa, like her childhood brought Ellie into it.
Yeah.
Like the warmth of her home and like these customs and like these cultures like that were felt more rich than the way Ellie lived. In
Yeah. And like
in that way. Like obviously Ellie was rich as in more money, but like Homa had like the more richness of like
her family.
her happiness.
Yeah. And like that's kind of what I was gonna say too. Like before they lived in the same neighborhood, like Homa's family maybe didn't have a lot of money, but they had like each other. Whereas Ellie, it seemed like her family, well, until her and her mom moved to that neighborhood, it seemed like they had like money and status. Um, but like she had a lot of it seemed like there was a lot of like rifts between her and her mom throughout the book.
Yeah, for sure.
Ellie's mother has an obsession with the evil eye. Where do you believe this originates? What effect do you think this has on Ellie's mother's outlook on life, and how might it affect Ellie as she grows up?
I mean, the evil eye is in a few different cultures. Like even like in the Hispanic culture, it's like Los Ojos, like they believe like a very similar thing. And so that's kind of what I've been familiar with. But so I'm not quite sure where it originates, but I think it's so interesting to see it like from culture to culture how this one thing. It's kind of the game of telephone to me. Like I'm like it had to start somewhere, and then like
Yeah.
different cultures like brought it up. Um, but I think that like it added this like sense of like anxiety to Ellie because her mom was just so always so focused like the evil eye is going to take things from you. Um,
Yeah. And like people are jealous of you, and that's why like the things happen and
yeah,
stuff like
and
that.
that's a really weird way to like to view your life. Like I'm not gonna have a happy marriage because people are gonna be jealous of me and then it's gonna go away. Like that doesn't really make sense in my mind.
Yeah, it almost seemed like it was a way for her mom to like just like have an answer or like place blame on a situation, and she could just like easily be like, it's the evil eye,
Yeah.
instead of like really like maybe looking more inward.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
at some of the things, I guess.
At the end where she's like finds out something about her father, and then my mom's like she's like, well, what about the evil eye? Like, I thought the evil eye took him. Like, why would they have taken him if it wasn't what it was? And the mom still's blaming the evil eye. Well, it wasn't what it was because the evil eye took it to begin with. And it's like,
Well, she didn't want to admit she was wrong because she was like that kind of
yeah,
character, that kind of person, like, you
yeah,
know?
it's just like gross.
Yeah. But I feel like she also at the end, like, kind of was just like, that's who you like your father was, and like didn't blame it as much on the evil eye anymore. Like, I think she just like didn't want to tell Ellie like very much stuff when she was little, which I can understand, like keeping things that are like hurtful private from your children and stuff.
Yeah.
But like I feel like everything was the evil eye. The evil eye did this, the evil eye did that. Like it
Yeah. And it's funny
was
'cause I don't remember her saying
it was
ways
her
to
fallback.
ward off the evil eye besides like not having it. Cause like in Mexican, like it's like the Los Ojos, like you touch it, or like you if you like if I liked your hair and like I was like wanted your hair, then I would like compliment you on your hair, and then that keeps evil eye away. But if I never said anything, then that's something wrong would happen to your hair.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
So like even like when I had small children, like women would come up in the grocery store and want to like touch them because of the evil eye. Like they if they
Hmm.
touched my baby, then my baby would be okay. But I don't remember them ever saying anything like to ward off the evil eye.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was kind of strange.
it was. Ellie spends much of her childhood mourning her father's death. How does her image of him compare to the man Ellie's mother reveals him to be later in the book? How does Ellie's relationship with her mother change once she finds out? How does this help explain Ellie's mother's actions throughout the book? There's a lot of questions.
So we find out at the end, Ellie's father dies in the beginning. We find out at the end that he had been unfaithful to her mother. Um which she missed him so much her whole life. Not that she wouldn't. I don't think like being unfaithful to your parent would make you like just not wish that they were still with you.
Yeah.
But I do think that by not telling her that, it gave her I think that's a nice thing to do, honestly, because she was way too little, I think, to bear that burden.
Hmm.
Although once I
I
don't think
agree.
she should have waited so long. Like once
And Ellie had to be the one to like bring
find
it up,
out.
I'm pretty sure, when they were at the restaurant in Bloomingdale's.
Yeah. Where it's like kind of like then you feel like you spent your whole life missing someone that wasn't like the truth of the way you saw them, which I could see how that'd be really complex grief.
Yeah. Or like her mom didn't talk about the dad at all, like throughout the book. And she was like, Ellie was bringing that up to her when like they were, when she was an adult. And she was like, I like, you never spoke of him at all. And like then her mother explains why, because he was like not faithful. And I feel like her mom still kind of like could have gone about it better. Obviously, like easier said than done. But like
Yeah.
she still could have went along with it for Ellie and then maybe like
Yeah.
dropped some more information as she got older, instead of just like completely like not acknowledging like this man
Yeah.
and then dropping that kind of bomb, because Ellie probably built him up in her head too, because she was only like 6 or 7 when he passed. So she was very young, and she probably like kind of made up this person in her head,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of like all came crumbling down. But if she had gotten little like tidbits along the way,
Yeah.
it might have been a little bit different.
And I think it would have helped her process her mom and her uncle's relationship. Because I think
Yeah, because that's like confusing.
yeah, this is wasn't my dad, it wasn't my dad, but then if she would have known this man actually treated her mom better than her dad treated her mom, then maybe
Yeah.
that would have repaired like their relationship a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I the uncle thing was a little strange, like because her mom was like, "I'm not giving in to Uncle Masad, whatever," in the beginning, and then she like
Yeah.
does, and I'm like, "Is it because you wanted like to be rich again,
Yeah, well
or
that's what
or
I
is like Uncle Masad like a cool guy? Like,
the
is he
whole
like
time.
husband material?"
Yeah. And I was so confused when Ellie finds her mom and her uncle in the bedroom doing the dirty. Um, did her mom know she was watching?
I don't know, because doesn't she wink at the end or
That's what
something?
I read, and I got so disgusted. Oh my god. I read it like 16 times. I was like, there's no way this is real. Like, could you imagine your kids walking in on you and they're like,
No.
that's disgusting. That is so disgusting.
No, that part was, yeah, that was pretty gross.
Like, what in the world?
Like as if Ellie's gonna understand also what the wink implies and what's going on because she's like literally like 7 or 8 years old.
I have a like almost 7-year-old. If he walked in on me and my husband, I think we would all be traumatized.
Yeah.
Like I would scream, I would cry. Like I would never wink at him. Oh my God, that is so disturbing. But the mother was a freaking narcissistic.
She was like a piece of work.
Yeah.
I don't know. Feel like I have like negative feelings about the mom. I know she like at the end, like it feels like Ellie's like kind of come around to her mom,
Yeah.
but I just feel like her mom was like,
Mm-mm. Not it.
I don't know, just cared about like a lot of the wrong things
Yeah. It's
about
okay
like
to
her.
be around to her mom. That's her mom. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not gonna I've so like I don't care.
Yeah. And like when
Oh,
she came to New York City and everything was like va va or whatever. Is that what she said, right?
yeah.
Va. Like
Wow.
the fish. Oh my God, when she did like the fish sticks or the TV dinner, I was like losing it. That was so funny.
I don't like this woman.
Yeah. How would you describe how Ellie's mother thinks of Homa? Why do you think she feels this way? How does this foreshadow what happens later in the book?
Yeah, I think it's so sad because Ellie's mother doesn't think that Homa is good enough friend for her daughter and has this very like snobby, we're better than you attitude, which is then passing down to Ellie, you know? She has this like
Yeah.
great relationship with this person, and by you telling her that it's not good enough, like not only is like hurtful to Homa because she didn't do anything wrong, but like the whole situation, like, you
It's a
know,
kid.
yeah, it's a
Like
kid.
it's literally a kid and like you're like that has done nothing wrong to
Yeah.
you or your daughter. Like
Yeah. I could understand, yeah, if her parents were doing something bad in the house, you don't want them going over there. Like they're yes, but no one did anything. They were so rich with love in their family, and they were such a good example for Ellie that it's just really sad that like the
and
mother portrayed it that way.
aside from skipping school like the one day, like it wasn't like she was a bad influence on Ellie. Like they were both like the top of their class and stuff like that. Like I feel like it like only like encouraged Ellie more to
Yeah.
be like a good student.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought like I did think it was kind of interesting at the end though of the book where when Homa's daughter Bahar was living with Ellie and Ellie's husband in New York and Bahar had the friend Madison and
Mhm.
then Ellie was like didn't like Madison and I was like, "Oh my God, it's like literally like
It was vice versa though, because Madison came
yeah.
and yeah. But yeah, you
I-
can look at it either way. Like just
Yeah.
like your financial status has no inkling to like the kind of person that you are. And I wish, yeah,
Yeah.
I came around when Ellie realized that is like too. Like made light of that.
Yeah. 7 years passed between part one and part two, and we find Ellie at an upscale school in a nice neighborhood with a new group of friends. How has her life changed, and how have her relationships changed or stayed the same?
Yeah, I feel like in that instance, Ellie's mom won. Like
Hmm.
Ellie changed. Her friends were like the friends her mom always wanted her to have. And yeah, she just became the little like robot her mom wanted to create, and all she really cared about was doing enough to get by in school, being popular, and finding a man to marry. And like the zest for life that Homa had was gone from Ellie.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like it kind of like set her up for her like future that her mom wanted for her, like with like going to school and like finding her husband. And luckily, like like she did find a good husband. Like they stayed together, and got married, and they were together throughout the whole book. Um, but I did find it kind of interesting, like how big of a change it was probably for Ellie, and she just kind of like just did it. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's like what you have to do, but I don't know. It just was kind of crazy how they went just because she married the uncle. It was like such
Yep.
a big different like lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does Like, was this different? Like in the beginning
Oh, yeah, her life.
when she was with like her Ellie's dad,
Mhm.
were they living like that? Or was like that like
I
lifestyles new to Ellie? I don't
I
I'm having
think
a hard time wording it. Like, did she go from like rich to then poor when her dad died to then rich again, like at the same level of rich?
I think
Or were
so.
they kind of like middle class, then poor, then they got like they came up?
I think that they went back to their previous life. I think it like referenced that they
So
had
Ellie kind of knew
yeah.
like that lifestyle. Okay. I don't know. I don't know why I thought I was like, oh, like she's getting like a taste of like, the rich life, but like she'd already had it. Never mind. Um, Describe the role politics in Iran plays throughout the book. How does it propel the plot forward? Does it function as a main character? How do the characters interact with politics, and how does it shape their future?
Yeah, that's like the whole premise of the book. Um that's like funny how it refers to it as a main character because it was so present
Yeah.
component of the book and it affected every single character. Um yeah, from the beginning of with Homas' dad being a communist, which I was like, this is
Yeah.
so weird that he's like getting in this much trouble for being a communist. And then going through to like all the laws against women later in the book, and then like it continues. It takes the life of Homas's husband. Like it's just present throughout in every storyline. There's a different way the politics interacts with it.
Yeah.
Like the same,
Um,
it's like different
and
ways.
it's also like the characters all like kind of believe something different. Like
Yeah.
Ellie's kind of like pretty like neutral about everything. Like she's not really like involved in much, although she hears like a lot of things from like all sides. Like her mom
Mhm.
was for the Shah,
Yeah.
and then Ellie was like against the Shah. And I don't know, just kind of interesting to like her mom would be like, well, the Shah like has made sure that we have this way like
Yeah.
of living, like we wouldn't be able to live like this without him or whatever. And then Ellie's point of view is kind of like, well, we have to fight for more women's rights. We have to have like women in the workplace, women get their degrees, like women have their freedoms and stuff. And it's just kind of different. Like it's interesting to see like what the characters cared about specifically, which I think is probably true of like any political like system and like anyone these days, even like in America, not just Iran.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see how each person like kind of their like role
Yeah.
in with it.
Her friend married to like the colonel who's like very politically charged.
Yeah.
Yeah, and coming up from
That
that.
was crazy.
Yeah.
That scene, like that's I think where the book flipped for me, where I was like, okay, I'm like into it now. Like it was like right around 50%. Because I didn't catch on at first that he was kind of like tricking Ellie
Yeah.
into that
Yeah. I know she says
like
he comes
conversation.
off like, charismatic and like personable, but I'm like, girl, you knew who he was. Like, you are
Yeah.
here because she said she didn't trust him as her friend was married to him because he was so much older and she just like had this like bad feeling about him. But then she goes on to like spill the biggest information on her friend. So that,
Well, he was very manipulative about it too.
yeah,
Like, and Ellie's not like she was smart, like book wise and stuff, but I don't think she was like very street smart of a person. So I think if someone was like kind of talking to her
yeah,
like that, like it was very easy for her to give that information away.
yeah,
And
that's
like actually, I thought when he came into that room, I don't know why, but I thought he was gonna hurt her in some
so did
form.
I. Or come on to her. Yeah.
Yeah, like basically like something like that. And then I thought it was gonna be like drama between her and like Suzanne. Like Suzanne wouldn't believe her or something like that was where my mind was kind of like going.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy how like Suzanne married this guy and like she can't like speak about his role in any of it at all. Like I would be more ashamed to be Suzanne than I would be as Ellie is. You know how Ellie's like feeling
Yeah.
guilty and ashamed the whole time for like basically
Yeah.
selling out her friend. I would feel more ashamed as Suzanne to have be married to this person
Yeah.
that is capable of doing that because Suzanne was friends with Homa too. Like they weren't like besties, but like
Yeah.
they're part of the same group.
I thought Ellie at first was doing it on purpose, giving away Homas because I thought she was so mad at Homas for like coming onto her husband. So
Oh,
I
I
thought
forgot
she was
about that whole
doing it on
scene.
like I thought she was doing it on purpose.
No, I like totally felt like she was oblivious. And I was oblivious to that happening too until like it kind of like at the end of it when it was wrapping up and like the next day, like
Yeah.
where she was like, "Oh, I said too much," and Homa was arrested.
Yeah.
Two themes of the book are betrayal and jealousy. How is this explored through the book, i.e., between characters, through the setting, between social classes and politics, etc.? Were there instances of betrayal that surprised you?
Yeah, I think that I'm still kind of surprised, and I feel like this is kind of a plot hole that I don't understand is Hamas and Ellie's husband's relationship. Like, were they just really close friends, or was there something else between them?
Murdad and Abdul.
Yeah, Hamas and
Oh wait.
because Ellie walked in on them in the kitchen.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
So I was like, but then it kind of that was that, and then it wasn't talked about because then Hamas went to jail. So I'm like, was there something between them? And Ellie just like looked the other way after Hamas went to jail.
Okay, I was definitely really interested in hearing like conversation about what they were actually talking about and like why it seemed like a little lovey-dovey to Ellie and like why she was upset. But then
Yeah.
it completely like just kind of skipped over that. Like I didn't even realize that. Now you brought that up, and now I'm like, I need the answers.
Yeah, because I feel like she wasn't because she was so obsessed with what's his name
Murdad.
or
That's how
dad.
I was how I pronounced it.
She was so obsessed with him. I feel like she didn't want to start a riff by addressing him about it. So she
Yeah.
wanted to address Hamas about it, but then Hamas got arrested. So then it kind of just disappeared because she also wasn't in the picture anymore and she wasn't gonna be. But like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then she never said anything about it to him because I don't think she wanted to break the facade of her being them being like the perfect couple.
Yeah. I think also because like they weren't like engaged or married at that time too. Like I think she was like a little bit more hesitant to bring it up to him. It seemed like the girls were a little bit more like reserved around their boyfriends, like until it was like marriage.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe she like didn't want him to think she was bringing up like childish things or something. Like he would think it was like childish or something, even though it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I think the ultimate betrayal of the book is what Ellie did to Homa, even though it wasn't intentional. And that was the part that I was kind of like, could I like go back if I was Homa, would I go back and be friends with Ellie after that? Because that is a big betrayal. But like she didn't do it on purpose. Like she would never have done something like that on purpose, even if like Homa was like being the other woman with Murdad or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think she would have sold out because she knew how dangerous like the political activism and stuff could get
Yeah.
in their country, and she didn't want her to be harmed. But I don't know. Do you think you could like be friends with someone again that ended up having you arrested ultimately that kind of sold you out?
I know it's hard because I don't think I would, but then I know that person didn't do it on purpose. Like I really believe Hamas believed like knew Ellie didn't do it on purpose. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know either. I like thought about that a lot.
Yeah. But this question with the jealousy, the themes of betrayal and jealousy. I know betrayal is a theme, but what was the I don't remember anyone being jealous besides the mom
Well,
thinking everyone was jealous.
Ellie was pretty jealous of Homa's like life. She was jealous that she had a dad. She was jealous that she had like a good mom, like a mom that she would be like,
Loving.
like Ellie really wanted the things that Homa had
Yeah.
in her life. But like I don't think her jealousy like made her like a bad person in those senses. I think it was just things that she was like, those are things I really want.
Yeah.
And I don't have them, so I'm jealous.
Yeah. Because then it goes vice versa. Like there's so much Ellie had that Hamas didn't have.
Yeah, like money and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then it goes on
And
to
she could be jealous.
yeah.
We didn't
Then
hear from Homa until like the end.
her, and then Ellie can't have children. So then there's like that aspect too. So yeah, okay.
Hmm.
I guess I just didn't like in the book, I don't feel like it came off like very like I know that they had these desires of wanting these other things, but I don't really remember it feeling like jealous. I don't know why I just
Yeah, I think because a lot of times we like associate jealousy with like bad and like you act bad because you're jealous. But
yeah,
like I think Ellie just really wanted like those things and like
yeah,
she didn't act bad about it.
yeah. That's yeah, because jealous is such like a negative connotation. So I guess yeah, that's why I didn't feel like that was like a big huge theme in the book, but now there was instances across every part of like want desires of the other person from both sides, I
Yeah.
think. Um, it says between social classes too, and in politics. I guess like yeah. I guess there's that always like that theme of the mom like inserting that jealousy in between social classes. Like
Yeah, I think she thought that like people were jealous of her, and I think she liked that feeling.
yeah, oh, that's true.
Is not imprisoned and raped. How might her life have turned out differently?
I know it's like kind of sad because I feel like as a parent you'd never like want your kid not to be there, right? So it's like
Mhm.
how would you come to terms with like although it happened in an awful horrific way, she still got something like so meaningful to her out of it.
Yeah.
But I don't see her having children. If it wasn't for that, I don't see her marrying what's his name. If it wasn't for that, like I'd see her just like being like what she lived true to herself to the end, like a hardcore activist. And
Yeah. Well, even in like the beginning of the book, that's like what she said she wanted. She was like, I don't have time for like
yeah,
these relationships. Like, I don't have time to like for the guy. Like, she was like
yeah,
trying to be like sloppy at that lunch just because like she's like, I'm not into this. Like,
yeah,
and I don't think she ever mentioned like wanting kids and stuff like that either. So I feel like it definitely, but I feel like she still got to do what she wanted to do, even though she like had her child and got married and stuff. Like she was still like involved. She started her organization
mhm,
with the other women.
yeah,
So I feel like she was like always connected to some sort of like activism.
yeah. And I think although maybe she didn't want to marry him, it was a good thing in her life that happened.
Yeah.
Like
I
he
think
was
she like admitted that too. Like he was very good to her.
yeah,
Like in a time where like she had just been like arrested and stuff. Like not a lot of people were like letting her into like their worlds and stuff after she got out, I'm assuming.
yeah. And she had him.
And
And
she
that
had
way she
him
didn't
there
have
right away.
yeah, she didn't have to go back and harm any of her family or her friends by like causing them to be in the eye of like concern and be in danger, like why she pushed Ellie away. So she had him as that companion, or she would have been all alone in that situation. Yeah.
Yeah. Homa talks about growing up to be lion women throughout the book. How would you describe lion women and how do Homa and Ellie understand the idea? How might it apply to women in general?
I love this like lion woman uh idea, I guess. It's also could be like biblical, and I've heard it like used in Christianity a lot too, but just like and I think it's great for women because in lions, like the women are the hunters. So like the males are like good for the pride, but the women actually hunt. And so I feel like especially in them being in Iran where like women are taking such a hit, they can't even expose any part of their body. They're not allowed to speak. They have no rights essentially, but
Yeah.
they still have this hope that they get to be the lion and they get to be the ones that are like on the prowl and can be the strong ones.
Yeah, I feel like being a lion woman in their eyes is like being strong, being like doing what you set out to do.
Yeah.
And like no one can like take it away from you type of thing.
Mhm.
To me it just like it really just like was like showing their strength. Like I feel like that's kind of the word I would associate lion women with. Um, and while I feel like Homa was like more outwardly like lion woman, I think Ellie also overcame a lot throughout the book,
Yeah.
that showed her strength as well.
Yeah.
Obviously like when she couldn't have children and like everyone was, you know, talking about her, like, and then going and moving to a whole new country that she doesn't, that's not hers, that's completely different culture. Like, that's very strong.
Yeah.
She did, I mean, a lot of things
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I think that lion women is the strength that for you and your own
you want.
yeah, it's like different
Yeah.
amongst all women, and I think but having that in common like it united them.
Yeah. The author explores the bonds between mother and daughter throughout the book. Discuss the mother-daughter relationships for each character and what they have in common.
I know it's like it's kind of weird because I feel like it crisscross applesauces where like Ellie and her mom weren't that strong, Homa and her mom or weren't that close, and then Homa and her mom were close, but then I think Homa was very close to her daughter, but I do think that like I don't know. There was like a little bit of distance, especially she chose to stay in Iran like after it all. So there's like
That
this
surprised me.
that me too. I was like I know I get it, but I don't know if I could ever do that. Like I'd never be able to
No, she
style.
made it seem like such an easy choice too. I was like, I think at a certain point when like you have like kids and stuff, like you, I mean, I guess it was her, she made it seem like it was like, there's no point in me being over there. Like she's an adult now, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't, we only have one life. Like I want to spend it with like my family. Like, and I guess she like built her organization of women and I'm sure she felt like that was family and her
Yeah.
close
She
bonds
wasn't
and stuff.
allowed to come back either, which was hard.
That's
Like, she
true.
had to just
Yeah.
accept it because she knew there wasn't a difference.
hmm But
But
even when she was like allowed to come back, like towards the end, I was kind of surprised that she wouldn't
yeah,
want to be with her. It was really her only family member.
yeah. And
Um,
I think that that allowed Ellie to have that mother relationship that she wanted though too, which was like really like beautiful.
yeah. I also think um like the bond between like Ellie and her mom was it was good that there was like several different types of mother-daughter bonds because not all mother-daughter bonds are the same, obviously.
Yeah.
And like you said, I did like appreciate like Homa and her mom's bond. Like it was very kind of like soft and like motherly and like it just felt like warm. Whereas like Ellie and her mom, it seemed very like kind of cold. Like her mom was like very she cared more about what she looked
Yeah.
like to other people. Like she cared about her image a lot. And I think that like really took a toll on Ellie
Yeah. And
and
it was
like
she's
on their
always
relationship.
yeah.
And like even I think in one part towards the end, Murdad was like some I don't maybe he didn't say this.
He did.
Mm,
Her
something
mom
about her
this.
narcissist. Yeah, okay, yeah.
He did say that, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like she kind of was.
Yeah. She
But it's
was
like kind of
always
crazy because Ellie still like loved her so much and like
yeah.
had a lot of like forgiveness and stuff for her.
Yeah. I think that's what's like kind of also like the beauty of like mother is like you accept your mother or your daughter like for their flaws. And so Ellie could
Yeah.
do that. And like between Homa and her daughter, like they could do that with each other as well. Like they were very like accepting because that deep love you have for the other person.
Yeah. In the final chapter and epilogue, we fast forward to 2022 and find out that Homa remained in Iran to fight for women's freedoms, and Ellie followed her dream of opening an Iranian cafe in America. How do these two women embody what it means to be lion women? How do they reflect on their past, and what do you think their hopes for their future? I feel like that we kind of like spoke about this already, but maybe like could wrap up those thoughts.
Yeah, I do feel like it was like their own wishes and like what they wanted to do and they
Yeah.
were, like, kind of the result of their upbringings like I don't know like I feel like Hamas like probably didn't force her to follow in her footsteps so she was allowed to have her own passions and was allowed to do her own thing and then her being with Ellie knowing Ellie wanted to kind of do that too was
Mhm.
like just because she was in that place at the right time and that kind of allowed for her to stay in America too, which is what she wanted to do.
Yeah. I don't really remember like Ellie's dream being to open an Iranian cafe or a restaurant
I don't
until
know.
the end when Homa was like, use these recipes for your restaurant, like you know you'll have one or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, where did this dream come from?
I think that they like her mom, Ellie's mom and her talked about it a little bit when she was there in America.
Yeah. And I know she like liked to cook with Homa's mom when she would go over to their like stone kitchen or whatever, and she'd talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But so maybe I just like wasn't connecting the dots that like that meant that she wanted to open
Her own.
a cafe.
I don't think it was like super apparent. I think there was like little like comments here and there.
Okay, because I was like, oh, that was kind of random in a way to
Because her
me.
mom came and was like, "Why are you working in this department store when you know you want to like run your own cafe?" And like
Oh, okay. Maybe I missed that part.
to her. But I think it's such a beautiful way to like bring your home country, what you miss,
Yeah.
what you want to cook to like profit and be able to bring that to America. I think that's great.
Yeah. Before the Islamic Revolution, women in Iran enjoyed many liberal freedoms that Western women are familiar with. What did you know about Iran before reading this book, and how have these characters and their stories changed your understanding? Now, Masa Amini has inspired another generation of Iranian women to protest and fight against oppression. What role do women play in political movements around the world? How much has changed since Ellie and Homa's childhoods in Iran? And what has remained the same? a lot of questions in one question.
That makes it like that the revolution happened after their childhood, so it was different for them. Um, but I think that it's, I mean, I don't know, every day I feel like infiltrated with like headlines of Iran, like them shooting women in the streets for doing this. And like, I mean, it's just not any better. And even for protesting, like these women are just, I mean, it's like a kill offense. Like you just get killed.
Yeah.
So it's like how are these women able to play any, how are they able to participate in any political movements if it's,
Going to result in possibly getting killed.
yeah,
It's risky.
yeah,
I like the beginning part of this question. I like what did I know about Iran before reading this book? I really didn't know very much. Like a lot of the stuff was a surprise to me. Specifically like how they had like all these freedoms and then they were slowly taken away and now it's like still being taken away like many years later. Like I don't think I would have known without this book. Like and now
yeah,
I'm kind of interested. I want to like look into it a little bit more and see like what it was like and stuff like that before.
yeah,
Or maybe pick up another book that's kind of like centered around like that time period. I just think it's very interesting how it's gotten so much worse for women when I think it should be getting better, especially with all the stuff that people are doing, like all the protests, all the activism, all the stuff. Like, why can't it get better for women?
yeah. And it's crazy because in our life, that's only I've only ever known of Iran being this way. So it's crazy thing in the 1950s where we think of like women in the United States being so oppressed in the 1950s, you know, being housewives or whatever. It's like vice versa, which is like kind of hard for my mind to grasp.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, and now with like the war going on, it's like, yeah, that's
Because
not we're getting it from like both angles, right? They're having like a war in their country while they're being oppressed. What are you doing there? Like I just can't imagine. Like you're getting it from every angle.
yeah. And
Life.
like the thing is like in the 1950s, like when they had like more freedoms and stuff like well around the world there was like still like a lot of oppression with women and stuff but then like things get better and better and better for women but then it gets worse and worse and worse for them so they I'm sure know what's going on in other parts of the world so it's kind of probably
They because
to
they're so like sheltered and they're not allowed to be educated. So do they know? I don't know.
oh I mean, they've
Like
got to know like
I don't know.
I don't know that's a good point but if they do know I'm sure that's very hard to see how everyone else is like getting more and more
Yeah,
freedoms and stuff like that and like they're getting more and more
taken
like
away.
oppressed. Yeah, taken away.
It's just crazy. Um,
This book is propelled by relationships between women. Describe those relationships and compare them to each other. Do you see relationships like these in your own life? What makes relationships between bleh, what makes relationships between women special?
oh, that's such a good question. Um, I don't think I've seen like the magnitude of a relationship like that in my own life. Besides
Yeah.
like you're my longest friend since we were children. You know, we kind of like we have gone through every stage together. And so I think that's like super powerful and that parallels in a way like the relationship in the book.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that women relationships are so special to see, and especially in a time where you are oppressed and you're going through these things, to have a power of people going through it with you is a really important thing.
And it
Um,
ties them together like to be closer.
yeah, because you do need that community. Everyone needs that in their life, and it
Yeah.
makes it so much easier as an adult now that I don't have like a ton of adult other friends. It makes it so easier to have friendships that are there, and the foundation has been built for so long. That like
Yeah,
when I'm having conversations with you, I don't need to tell you about what happened in my childhood because you were there, right? Like so
that's
it's
true.
like it only builds and becomes like more sophisticated of a relationship as how hard it is to build a relationship from scratch as an adult.
Yeah. I just I think the like they were able to connect so well throughout so many different stages of their life, even like when they weren't friends anymore, or they weren't talking, like they were always thinking about each other and like things would always remind them of each other, like the little teapot or like their stationery, their necklaces, like they always had like little pieces of each other.
Yeah.
And I do think that's really special. And I think that's like very like present with like a lot of female relationships too. Like at
Yeah.
any of them, you know,
Yeah.
like just always like having like these like very fond memories, like all these little just little things that remind you of each other. I don't know. Are men like that? I don't
I
know.
know. Probably not.
They're like not as sentimental, I feel like with stuff like that. Like the way she was going on and on about like the stationery, the teapot, the stuff like that. Like
And she wore
maybe
the
men,
necklace like her whole life.
yeah.
Like that's so
Being able to take in your friend's child to in another country, like
after not speaking for
their
so many years and you're still
like
willing to do that.
their relationship like is very special. I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more relationships like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay, there wasn't a question about this, but I just want to add this in. Did you think Homo was gonna die?
yeah.
I did too. I thought like the epilogue was like why she wasn't like at I think it was like Lily's party,
Yeah.
Bihar's daughter, so Homa's granddaughter.
Yeah.
I thought like Homa was dead from like
Yeah.
something that happened in Iran.
Yeah. And then the letter that Homa wrote Lily about being her grandma and like watching her from afar, like
Yeah,
that
I
broke
know.
her. That's like
It did.
but how lucky are Lily and Bara, I always want to say her name wrong. Bara
Bahar,
are um
I think.
that they're so lucky to have not only Homa like to be this like powerful woman that's their like grandma and mother, but then they get Ellie too. Like they get
Yeah,
built-in grandma, and I think that's like super special because of the relationship that Homa and Ellie were able to build.
that is. What
Um,
did you rate the book?
a 5.
5. Okay, that's good. I rated 4. I loved the book so much. But I do still stand by the beginning was very slow and pretty hard to get into, but I enjoyed the book a lot once it like picked up. And I think it's like really important messages, really interesting things to read about. It's not something like it's not a culture I typically have read. I think I've only read one other book where the main characters were like from the Middle East, and actually the book took place in New York. It was the Etaf Rum
Yeah, the women.
book that we read. A
Yeah.
Woman Is No
It's
Man.
man. Yeah.
So it's really interesting to like read about other cultures to me.
I agree. I know that this author has another book, the Stationery Shop. I always
Oh,
look at
okay.
it where it's like really pretty. I might pick that up soon because I am like really intrigued by these themes and I loved her writing.
Yeah.
So
There was actually in the author's note in the back of the book said she started out writing this book
oh yeah, I saw that.
about 4 mothers, and like one of them, I think one of them the mother was Ellie, and like she kept like thinking way too much about this one woman's story, and that's why she ended up writing about Ellie as like
Yeah,
the main character, and like kind of like scrapped the
other
old
ones.
book. And I was like, oh, I kind of want to read the old one too.
I know. I think she should come out with the sequel that's like ties Ellie in, but because I think
Yeah.
she did such a good job at that. I think she did such a good job tying everything together.
Yeah, she
Besides
did.
the Homa thing that I had to question about that her with Ellie's husband, that's the only thing that left me questioning. I think the rest of it tied together so well.
Yeah, I agree. And then for October, um, is it our October book or our September book? September book.
Oh my
This is
goodness.
this is our August book.
We're all twisted around. Yeah, September.
Okay. Our September book is going to be a thriller because we will likely record in the beginning of October, so it'll be in the right time for spooky month. It's called We Used to Live Here by Marcus Klewer.
Yes.
Klewer.
Again, some thrillers.
Some thrillers by a man.
Oh no. I don't know. We read The House in the Sea by a man.
Yeah,
The only one we've read by a man. We don't typically veer that way.
I know because the relationships between women are so special.
Yes, exactly. Who run the world?
Girls. All right. Thank you all for listening. We will hopefully see you next month with our next book.
See you next.
Bye.
Bye.